What if I told you that the being tradition paints as a fugitive expelled from heaven actually appears walking calmly inside it, not once, but twice, and that the Bible itself, read in its original language, never calls him by the name you think you know? Today we're going to read the exact verse where it happens, and at the end I'll show you the secret hidden in a single Hebrew word, the word that holds up the entire book. There's the accuser in the first scene of the book, crossing the throne room like someone arriving at a meeting he was summoned to. No one stops him. Let's start where the story starts, in the land of Uz. The text introduces a man named Job, blameless, upright, fearing God, shunning evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen. He was the greatest man in all the East. When his children finished their feasts, Job would rise early to offer sacrifices for each one of them, just in case they had sinned in their hearts. That word, curse, is planted there on purpose. You're about to see it explode. And then, without warning, the account pulls us off the earth and plants us somewhere else. Imagine a throne room, the royal court of the universe itself. The sons of God come to present themselves before the Lord. This isn't a social visit. It's a session of the heavenly court, and the text adds, almost in passing, and among them the adversary also came. It doesn't say he infiltrated. He came among the sons of God as one more who appeared. God speaks first. Where have you come from? The adversary answers, from roaming through the earth and walking back and forth on it. And pay attention, it's God who brings up Job, not the adversary. Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one like him on the whole earth. The adversary responds with the question that is the secret heart of the entire book. Does Job fear God for nothing? Hold on to that phrase. Have you not put a hedge around him and everything he has? But stretch out your hand and touch all he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. It's a surgical accusation. It claims Job's devotion is a transaction. Take away the payment, it says, and you'll watch the facade collapse. And that arrow isn't aimed only at Job, it's aimed at God. If the only way anyone loves you is by being paid, then no one loves you for real. God answers, everything he has is in your hands. But on the man himself, do not lay a finger. The adversary went out from the presence of the Lord. In a single day, 4 messengers come running. Raiders carry off the oxen. Fire falls from the sky and consumes the sheep. A wind collapses the house where his children were. Job gets up, tears his robe, falls to the ground and worships. The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. If that moment reached you, a man losing 10 children in a single day and falling to his knees to bless instead of curse, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Tell us in the comments, do you think you could react that way? In all this, Job did not sin, nor did he charge God with wrongdoing. The court convenes again. God points to Job once more. He still maintains his integrity, though you incited me against him without cause. Mark that phrase, without cause. The adversary raises the stakes. Strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face. God answers, he is in your hands, only spare his life. The adversary strikes Job with painful sores from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. Sitting in ashes, the greatest man in the East remains. That's what the text says. Now comes our job, understanding it, reading it through the eyes of an ancient Israelite. The first key is in a single Hebrew letter. You read Satan capitalized as a proper name, but the Hebrew says ha-Satan. That ha is the definite article, the. In Hebrew, proper names don't take an article. When a word carries an article, it's a job title, a function, the king, the judge, the prosecutor. It's always the adversary. What does Satan mean in Hebrew? Simply this: adversary, opponent, the one who stands against. That same word is used for ordinary people and even for messengers of God. The angel of the Lord stood in a prophet's path as a Satan against him. The word itself isn't a demonic name. It's a common noun describing anyone who opposes you. There's a context where it takes on a very specific flavor. The legal one, the one who rises against you in a trial, the prosecutor. When translated into Greek, it became the slanderer. That's where our word devil comes from. But first, the job title existed. Only with time did it harden into the proper name we know. The text of Job doesn't describe a fugitive sneaking past heaven's security. It describes an official with a judicial title. The question is no longer how he got in. It's, what kind of heaven is this, where such an office exists? Subscribe to the channel if you want to follow this journey. The first door leads us to a palace on the eve of a battle. A king summons his prophets who promise him victory. One prophet describes something he saw. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne with all the host of heaven standing around him. Who will entice this king to fall in battle? A spirit comes forward. I will entice him. By what means? I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of his prophets. A throne, a heavenly assembly, a question from God, a permission with a limited mission. It's the exact same architecture as Job. It's not a coincidence. It's an institution scholars call the Divine Council, the heavenly court. A psalm describes God standing in the assembly of divine beings. Another prophet sees him deliberating in the plural, whom shall I send and who will go for us? A night vision describes thrones were set in place and the court was seated and the books were opened. Courtroom language. The book of Job itself uses sons of God again. When God recalls creation, all the sons of God shouted for joy. The image of a supreme God presiding over an assembly of divine beings wasn't exclusive to Israel, but in the Bible, those beings aren't rivals of God. They're servants. You are gods, he tells them, but you will die like mere mortals. One throne, one authority, everything else administration. The heaven of the Old Testament is a functioning royal court. There's a king, sessions, appearances, reports. When God asks, "Where have you come from?" the adversary answers, "From roaming the earth." That Hebrew verb describes the movement of a patrol. There's a fascinating parallel with the Persian Empire, traveling officials, the eyes and ears of the king, who toured the provinces and returned to report. Job's adversary fits exactly that uniform. An inspector of the heavenly crown. It's an academic hypothesis, but with real explanatory power. What exactly does a prosecutor do with a file in front of the judge? Question, suspect, accuse. Another nearly identical scene proves it. The high priest Joshua stands before the angel of the Lord. And who stands at his right hand? The adversary, to accuse him. The word that names him and the verb describing what he does share the same root. The job carries its own name. The Lord rebuke you, Satan, the Lord himself answers. And he orders, take off his filthy clothes and clothe him with fine garments. The accuser arrives with the file under his arm, and the judge dismisses the case out of pure grace. Remember this scene. We have a coherent picture, a heavenly court, an accuser's office. Is this the same figure from the New Testament, the ancient serpent? There are two major readings. The decisive clue for one of them is hidden in the most boring episode imaginable, a census. The critical reading says, the figure evolved. A king's census is recorded twice. First, as the Lord's anger. Later as a Satan without the article. For this reading, that's where we see the character being born. The function is detaching from the throne and starting to carry the dark actions itself. Later, Jewish literature develops the theme further. Rebellious watcher angels, a prince of evil spirits, and the declaration that through the devil's envy, death entered the world. This reading's conclusion. Job's adversary isn't yet that character. Reading him as the full-blown devil is projecting a later theology backward. The traditional reading answers, what evolved wasn't the character, but the revelation about the character. The being who accuses Job already shows the complete moral profile of the New Testament adversary. For this reading, the chain is one. The accuser of Job and the final enemy are the same being, seen with growing light. Who's right? The text of Job alone doesn't settle the dispute, but we can state what it says and doesn't say. It doesn't say he's an intruder, an equal to God, or that heaven is at war. There's one sovereign and one shadowy official on a short leash. So what do we do with the fall? Wasn't he cast out before the creation of man, like the rebellious cherub you know by name? The first text describes the fall of morning star, son of the dawn. How you have fallen from heaven, you who said, I will make myself like the Most High. Go back a few verses. You will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon. It's a satirical funeral song against a human tyrant. The Hebrew expression means the shining sun of the dawn, the planet Venus that fades before the sun, a perfect image for a fallen, arrogant empire. When translated into Latin, the word Lucifer was used, simply meaning light bearer. Over the centuries, it froze into the adversary's proper name. The second text describes a cherub in Eden, the garden of God, but the heading says, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre. It's a prophetic lament against the monarch of the richest Phoenician city in the Mediterranean, who proclaimed himself divine and was brought down. Early Christian thinkers reasoned this language exceeds any human king and proposed an earlier, greater fall behind it. A poet fixed that reading in the Western imagination. In 1667, the great poem about the heavenly rebellion and the expulsion before Eden was published. Read in context, these passages speak of human kings, and the New Testament never cites them directly to talk about the adversary. There's an irony left over. The only one who claims the title Morning Star in the last book of the Bible is Jesus. The New Testament texts about a fall are three. Jesus says, I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning. He says it when his disciples return from their mission. Days before the cross, now the prince of this world will be driven out, tied to his own death. The third text is the great battle of Revelation. The dragon was hurled to the earth. Interpreters split into three readings on the timing. There is, however, one verse that isn't ambiguous. When the dragon is finally cast out, the accuser of our brothers has been hurled down, who accused them day and night. The New Testament itself confirms what his occupation was until that instant. The scene in Job wasn't an anomaly. It was the normal functioning of the court. And there's one more confirmation. The night before the cross, Jesus says, Satan has asked to sift you, but I have prayed for you. Stop on that verb, has asked. He requested permission from a higher authority, the same mechanism as Job, chapter 1. The opening question now has a full answer. He could enter heaven because heaven is a functioning royal court, and his title was accuser, active until his final expulsion. That expulsion is tied to the cross, not to a past before Eden. Job lived before that moment. But there's a question left that truly hurts. The accuser had access, but why did God entertain it? The answer is hidden in a single Hebrew word, Jinam, free, without payment, without cause. The entire accusation hangs on that word. The adversary denies that something called free love exists anywhere in the universe. He claims all devotion is a contract. God answers later, you incited me against him without cause. Same word, Jinam. The author placed it in both mouths on purpose, like two mirrors facing each other. When Job says, the Lord gave, the Lord has taken away, blessed be the name of the Lord, The prosecutor's case collapses. A human being worshipping without receiving anything in return. That's the bet resolved. If God had simply declared that Job loved him, the accuser would have said, "You pay him to love you." There was only one way to prove it: let the payment be withdrawn. What was at stake was whether the relationship between heaven and earth is commerce or love. 3 final details, pure literary genius. First, the adversary disappears after chapter 2. He never speaks again. Second, Job never finds out. He goes through the whole book asking why, never suspecting the trial had already happened and he was winning it. Third, when God finally answers from the whirlwind, he doesn't give the reason. He shows him all of creation. And somehow, it's enough for Job. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. The man who demanded answers received presents instead. There's one last move. Remember the Zechariah scene, the accuser at the right hand, the judge dismissing the case. That scene was a seed. Paul writes, "Who will bring any charge against God's elect? Christ is the one who intercedes for us." At the right hand, where the accuser stood, there's now an intercessor. If anyone sins, we have an advocate with the Father. When Jesus promises the Spirit, he calls him another advocate. That word confesses who the first one was. Satan has asked to sift you, but I have prayed for you. Job stood alone before the file. Peter had someone pleading for him. Job's heaven had a prosecutor standing. Heaven, after the cross, has an advocate seated. What changed forever is who speaks on your behalf. That question thrown into the throne room is still open over every human life, including yours. Do you love for free, or do you love the payment? Maybe your own ashes, the questions that never got answered, are also being heard in a courtroom you can't see. The accuser lost his place in the court. The advocate never abandons his. And the question is still waiting for your answer. Thank you for staying until the end. If the image of Job falling to his knees to bless in his worst moment reached you, or if that final question kept echoing in you, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments how you would answer it. See you in the next video.